My season-defining player number 2 may be even more important than season-defining player number 1, Lamadrick Spencer.
You are Locked On SMU, your daily podcast on the SMU Mustangs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you will know who that season-defining player number 2 is here in just a moment here on a Wednesday edition of Locked On SMU. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day, and thank you for spending part of your day with me. I'm Grayson Singleton, and today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. So coming up on today's show, is SMU not even a top 25 team? According to one survey, they are not. And also an update on tight end RJ Maryland as he continues to come back from an ACL. No, this will not be a regurgitation of a previous podcast because there's new information. So stick around with us. Thank you to all of you that listen on the podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast. And for those of us on YouTube. And speaking of YouTube, I want to shout out one listener. I told you guys I read the comments every single day. And we're going to begin this episode with a shout out to Alex Aronson 876 because he left a comment on yesterday's video saying, I hope Turbo Smith is in your season-defining players because he's going to be a beast for us this year. Brother was overshadowed last year. You're right, he was overshadowed, and he is season-defining player number 2, Isaiah Smith, the defensive end. And why was he overshadowed? Because he was third on the team in sacks. But in terms of that defensive end edge rotation, he was behind Elijah Roberts and Jafari Harvey, both of whom had 7.5 sacks, and both of whom are on NFL rosters right now. So Isaiah Smith moves up on the pecking order. And I've got two reasons why I think Isaiah Smith is season-defining player number 2. One because of necessity and one because of importance. And it's going to tie in together. And then there's a third leadership factor in all of this too. So, one because of necessity. I think it's obvious. He's the next up on that pecking order. Isaiah Smith had 6.5 sacks last year, and he was the third defensive end. Now, he's not going to be tasked with replacing all 15 sacks that Harvey and Roberts leave behind because Coach Lashley has said that this team has a lot more depth at defensive end this year than they did a season ago. A lot more depth that is ready to play and contribute at a high level. But Isaiah Smith himself, if you think of a guy who had that many sacks as a rotational, and I put that kind of in air quotes because he did play a lot of snaps, but he wasn't one of the starting 2 defensive ends. So hopefully you get what I'm putting down here. Can you think of a lot of defensive ends who had 6.5 sacks as a rotational defensive end? There's not a whole lot across the country. What he did was exceptional. And it's going to be a necessity for him to take that next step, now being the guy that people game plan for, because that wasn't the case last year. Now, that's not to mean or to insinuate that he was going up against scrubs in 2024, but he was the change of pace kind of guy. This year, he's going to set the pace for that defensive end rotation. And it's presumably going to be him on one side and Cam Robinson on the other side. But Isaiah Smith, in terms of speed to power, possesses traits that could, in elevated number of snaps and elevated usage, could translate to him cracking double-digit sacks. And the teams that win conference championships, the teams that compete for national championships, can get after the opposing team's passer. If Isaiah Smith, and here comes the importance part of all of this, if Isaiah Smith stays stagnant in his progression from 2024 to 2025, we've got problems. Isaiah Smith has to improve. And that's not to say he was a bad player, but he's got to elevate his game now because he's going to be in an elevated role, if that makes sense. That is no slight on Isaiah Smith's season from last year, but bigger responsibilities, bigger power. What's the Spider-Man quote? With great power comes great responsibility. He's going to be put in an elevated role. He's going to have to turn out elevated production. And I like him. I think he has that potential to do so. Because again, 6.5 sacks with the number of snaps he played last year. Even if he just stays on that, on that trajectory or on that pace, he's got double-digit sacks. To me, that is a winner. I'm not saying SMU's defense is going to go how he goes, but I think quarterback's comfort is going to go how he goes. And I'm going to tie this into a macro perspective about SMU's defense. We've already talked about the necessity and the importance of why Isaiah Smith needs to be a season-defining player. But SMU's got questions at cornerback. They've got questions at linebacker. I think the questions at linebacker are more so just because we haven't seen it. The questions at corner is because we're like, okay, who's going to be the dudes? Even though we highlighted Lamadrick Spencer yesterday, we don't know that he's going to be the starting nickel. We don't know who the starting outside corners are going to be. So that's the big question right now looming over the SMU defense. But you know what helps out a corner group a lot? A pass rush that can get after the quarterback. And between Isaiah Smith and Cam Robertson, those are 9 sacks returning between the two. Can they up that to combine for the 15 that Roberts and Harvey combined for last year? Can they exceed it? When you can get after the quarterback, that helps out your secondary a ton. And it's going to help that younger, unproven corner group settle into the season. Because if not, in the first 4 weeks of the season, you're going to see Sawyer Robertson and Josh Hoover, 2 of the better quarterbacks in the Big 12. Good players. Good players. I don't think they're great players, but good players nonetheless. At a minimum, you have to be able to get after them. You have to be able to move them off their spot. Because against a young, unproven secondary, they're going to pick it apart. And those teams have receivers. But can you negate those receivers by making sure the quarterback can't get to them? Also down the line, you're going to play Cade Klubnik. You're going to play Carson Beck. You might play one of them again come the ACC championship game. And who knows the quarterbacks that you're going to play? Do you get back to the college football playoff? Pass rush is going to be critical between those two and DJ Warner and some of the other dudes that they have coming back. But I think the tone setter is going to be Isaiah Smith. That pass rush is going to go how he goes. He got great snaps last year. He needs to get really, really great production off of the increased snaps this year. 6.5 sacks a season ago. ESPN does not track TFL, so I don't have that total for you. I'm sorry. But 6.5 sacks as part of your 32 tackles is pretty good output. That's really good output. By the way, that output tackle to sack ratio is right in line with Elijah Roberts and Jafari Harvey, both of whom had 7.5 sacks. Roberts on 35 total tackles, Harvey on 31. All you have to do with Isaiah Smith, as we in this episode, this segment, all you have to do is just keep that pace. Have the production that we think, or the progression rather, that we think Kevin Jennings is going to have. And you might be one of the leaders of the defense. You might be a dude that we talk about being on an all-ACC team. So there you go. Season-defining player number 2, Isaiah Smith, defensive end, the guy they call Turbo. Coming up next, how is SMU not a top 25 team? USA Today, you're going to have to answer for this one. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you could end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch Money does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching one of those spreadsheets. I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions that I wasn't even using. Good God, that saved me a bunch of money. Canceling those alone saved me more money every single month. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use Locked On College. Use that code Locked On College at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code Locked On College. If you're running a business, every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you needed a service. If the first person didn't answer, did you wait? Probably not. You just moved on. That's why you need OpenPhone, so you never miss an opportunity to connect with your customers. OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system designed to streamline and scale your customer communications. Do you juggle 2 phones just to keep business and personal calls separate? OpenPhone can solve that instantly. See why over 60,000 businesses trust OpenPhone. They're offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedoncollege. That's openphone.com/lockedoncollege. They'll even port over your existing numbers for free. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers. USA Today. You're going to have to answer for this one. USA Today did a re-ranking of their top 25. And as I look to get that up, my computer freezes. Here we go. So USA Today did a re-ranking of their preseason top 25. And I was pretty shocked to find SMU not on it at all. Here is because the top 10 remain the same, albeit in a different order. But the top 10, Penn State, Georgia, Clemson, Texas, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Alabama, Oregon, Miami, LSU. Same top 10, shook up the order a little bit. In the top 25, this is going to get all of you. Here are some of the teams that are in the top 25, and none of them include the SMU Mustangs. Oklahoma at 11, fine. I think that's overrated, but okay. Louisville at 14. Michigan at 15. Ole Miss at 17. Tennessee at 16. Still kind of not buying them, but we'll see how good they are. Texas Tech at 19. Top transfer class. Okay, cool. Boise State at 23. Indiana at 24. Florida at 25. Nebraska, by the way, at 21. Not sure how many of those teams are better than SMU, but I'm willing to wager that 80% of them will not be by the end of the year. Just plain and simple. I don't think Louisville is going to be better than SMU. Michigan, we'll see. We'll see on Michigan. Nebraska, I do not think will be, even though I think they'll be a good team. Boise State, I do not think will be. Indiana, I do not think will be. And Kirk Cinetti just continues to get on my nerves. And Florida, I don't think will be, because their quarterback is barely practiced in fall camp, if he has at all. I love these preseason lists simply because, A, they generate content, and B, because they show how unpredictable the world of college football is, and C, because I think some people overthink simple things. I think SMU is going to be the 3rd best team in the ACC at minimum, barring catastrophic injury. They are the 3rd best team in the ACC at minimum. I don't think you can say that and then say you're not a top 25 team in the country. That doesn't track with me. Now, USA Today does not think they will be the third best team in the country. They think that team is Louisville. And I don't think Miller Moss has shown enough to warrant that sort of attention. I just don't think he has. Do I think Miller Moss has good football to play? Yes. I do not think it is that good. Now, Louisville, by the way, has one of the better backfields in terms of a tandem in all of college football. They've got a really good running back duo back there with Miller Moss. So they're going to be able to run the football. But if you're talking about preseason polls, yes, you take into account what's coming back. And I think that's going to be the biggest demerit against SMU in this sort of evaluation. But if you're talking about quality of players coming back and you marry that with what happened last season and throw in coaching staff, which Louisville's got a good one, by the way. No slight to Louisville on that one. They've done a good job. But give me Rhett Lashley in terms of those three things that generally influence rankings: last season's success, what's coming back, and your coaching staff. I think Louisville takes at minimum two of the three: last season's success and coaching staff. If you want to debate between Louisville and SMU, if you want to debate that in terms of players coming back, we can have the conversation. I think SMU would win it because of the one important thing. All of their leaders were there last year. They didn't bring in dudes who are going to be leaders. And one of those guys being the quarterback who has synergy with offensive-minded head coach, offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, quarterback. They were all there a season ago. I put heavy stock on teams that have that sort of continuity. Sometimes you can take out quarterback coach because those dudes go leave for other jobs. That's cool. But head coach, play caller, quarterback. If I've got those three coming back in this age of college football, I love it. That's part of why I'm high on Clemson. That's why I think Clemson's going to be really good, because they've got that with a guy that I think could be the best quarterback in the country. But if you're going to say at minimum the third best team, you can't be dropped out of the top 25. And I think USA Today got that third best team wrong. I think that SMU versus Louisville game is going to be a hell of a football game. I think it's going to be a great football game because I think Louisville's got players. But SMU, by the way, you know where they get that game? On the hilltop. They get that game on the hilltop in the penultimate game of the regular season. I think SMU's in really good shape here. Louisville, by the way, because I like to turn these rankings into some sort of a projection. Louisville, by the way, has an insane schedule. Their non-con isn't worth much, even though we'll see what happens September 5th when they play James Madison. That could surprise us. But they've got road games at Pitt, at Miami, and at SMU. By the way, they go to Virginia Tech too. Oh, and then in there is a home game with Clemson. They're going to have to be really, really good. And Miller Moss is going to have to show me a lot to believe that that's going to be a team with that schedule and what they have that can compete to be in the ACC championship game. Because with that schedule and what I know about that team, I don't see it. I think Louisville can be a 7-8 win team, but there's a chance they lose all three of those road games, Pitt, Miami, and SMU, and they could very easily lose on the road to Virginia Tech. Because no matter how good or bad Virginia Tech is, they've got a crazy home environment that can set them apart. So, look, if you want to, I'll give USA Today a break here. If you want to say Louisville's better than SMU, okay, fine, I guess. I don't see the logic in terms of the three pillars that I like to rank teams on. I don't see it. It doesn't add up with my logic. But I don't think there's 25 teams better than SMU. And I'll probably throw 26 in there because I think Georgia Tech would probably be higher than them. But if you're going to tell me that Nebraska, Boise State, Indiana, and Florida are going to be better than SMU, you're going to have a really hard time convincing me that. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you are going to fall in that same category. One more segment to go on Locked On SMU. RJ Maryland gives us more good news. We will talk about it to close up the show next. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up, and college football isn't that far behind. So whether you've got your eye on big-name quarterbacks or breakout running backs, PrizePicks makes it easy for you to get in the game. I have won several times with several parlays and several futures on PrizePicks. I love to bet on any sort of game that I attend in person because it just makes it just a little bit more fun. And PrizePicks, with their easy payouts, always makes it simple. The flex play option is a total game changer. Even when one of your picks misses, I still doubled my money. I have done this before numerous times because Jaylen Brown can't stop selling my parlays. PrizePicks also puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, run your game. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ even before week 1, this is your moment. So take a flyer on the MVP race. Who's going to be your MVP? For me, I think it's going to be Joe Burrow this year. I think he's due for a good year. And I hope Cincinnati's defense is good enough to where they win some games because that dude can play. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now because Futures Day is a one day and it is one day only. FanDuel, play your game. One more segment here to go on Locked On SMU as we round out a Wednesday edition. By the way, thank you all for bearing with me as we release the podcast on the audio side an hour later than usual. Okay, here's some great news for all of us. RJ Maryland is progressing a little bit faster than I would have thought. So Billy Embody down there in Dallas covering fall camp for SMU has said that RJ Maryland is out of the red jersey. Red jersey, injury designation, no contact. He is going to take some lumps before SMU plays Baylor. And I know the way I phrased that probably made you think, oh God, well, how is this good? Basically meaning he's going to take some hits. And I don't know how much they're going to play him in the East Texas A&M game, but he's going to see some time. He is going to get in the game against East Texas A&M. I love this. I love it. Because if they can get him all wound up before conference play, I thought conference play, the first game or two, he was going to be worked in. But it seems like the working in is going to be done by the time they play TCU, which is going to be awesome. And look, RJ Maryland is not going to be the same RJ Maryland as soon as he steps on the field. I think we all are aware of that. He's just not. But as he continues to work in, and you've got Matthew Hibner as the number 2 tight end who played very nicely as the tight end 1 at the end of last year, the offense is going to be good. I think I feel comfortable saying that. Barring any last-minute setbacks to RJ Maryland, this offense is going to be really good. And he has gotten back up to speed at a quicker pace than I anticipated, which is great. I mean, when I read that yesterday, that he's out of the red jersey and he can take some contact now, a happy feeling went through me. You have to be happy about that because as dynamic of a field stretcher as he is, that still possesses a lot of wide receiver traits and can make wide receiver type spectacular catches, you need a guy like that. You need a guy who can be a difference maker like that in your offense. And you need him at full speed as soon as possible, because you start off ACC play with Syracuse, not a shabby team. And then 2 games later is the first of back-to-back road games, and it's against Clemson. If you can have RJ Maryland not only 100%, but 100% with his feet underneath him, because I think sometimes that makes a big difference too, you are in good shape to go toe-to-toe with the Tigers. You are in excellent shape to go toe-to-toe with Clemson. And look, this staff and the training staff is going to keep an eye on him, because you have to. He tore an ACL. He tore an ACL about 10 months ago. I don't know if it's 10 months to the date, but about 10 months ago is when he tore that ACL, in October of last year. And you're going to have to keep an eye on him, but this is around the timetable where you would think he should be ready to go. And he has made the timetable. I thought this was going to stretch into the season where we're a little bit cautious with him in East Texas A&M, maybe give him a little bit more against Baylor, maybe give him a little bit more against Missouri State when you go to Missouri to take them on. It looks like it's not going to be the case. Work him in against East Texas A&M. Is he full go against Baylor? Is he full go against Baylor, or is he going to be full go at Missouri State? And maybe they don't put him full go at Missouri State regardless, because you're playing Missouri State, who has been a team on an ascent relative to where they are in terms of the football hierarchy. But if he is full go, no restrictions, no questions about it in the TCU game, I don't think any of us can complain about that. I think all of us are saying hallelujah if that ends up being the case with RJ Maryland. Anything accelerated is just icing on the cake at this point. But right now, hearing that he is out of the red jersey is awesome, awesome news. That's your RJ Maryland update. This is good, man. This team is shaping up to be a team that can go duplicate what it did a season ago. Isaiah Smith continues to progress. RJ Maryland is back. Kevin Jennings continues to improve over the offseason. Who's to say this team cannot go back to where they were a season ago? And that'll do it for this edition of Locked On SMU, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Thank you all for listening on YouTube and Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcast. We will talk to you tomorrow for your second listen of the day. Make sure you hit up Locked On's The Portal with Brian Smith. He's going to keep you up to date on everything in the world of college football. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the sports landscape. Find The Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Take it easy, everybody.